A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I was reminded after listening to complex discussions on the issues which really went right over my head. When somebody in an audience, asked a famous scientist, you cannot show me the quantum physics. You cannot prove it to me. And he said, I can prove it mathematically. And the person asked that you cannot see God. Why don't you accept that? He said, you cannot prove God to me mathematically. So that is the challenge if you really want to take it. And I don't know how to deal with it because it's way, way beyond me. But looking at things simply, I think there's a way of dealing with it where us lay people can relate to certain things. And I thought in the Quran, the thing that we need to focus on is what the Quran says. And I was talking to Mahdi Sahib earlier today, and he was, we were talking about the creation of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, and Allah says, I said it be, and it was. And I think he elaborated on that. But there's another piece of it, that in the same verse Allah says, the creation of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam was like the creation of Adam. And then, of course, it happened over a 9-month period of time. Now, it tells us, this is what the Quran says, that the Adam that we are talking about was created the same way, without a father, and he took 9 months before birth. There are other traditions that Hazrat Adam was not the first Adam, and this is not as stated that way in the Quran, but it is a part of the Muslim traditions. So it means that this is something which has happened before many, many times. So our belief is, based on this, strictly speaking on that verse, that God has periodically created anew and changed the human species in some fundamental way, which brought about the evolution of human beings. And by extrapolation, you can carry it to other organisms as well. The other thing I wanted to point out was that we need not focus on how science supports the Quran. We need to focus on how the Quran supports science. It's a subtle thing, but it makes a big difference. Rather than being apologetic, that look, there's something in science conforms to what we have in the Quran, and this is a very Christian way of doing things. The biblical stuff, they are very anxious to point out how certain things in the Bible are proven by the Quran, by the science. What we need to do is we need to focus on what the Quran teaches us and then take it wherever we can take it. Now, that is very different from science. I agree with the brother who raised the issue that the science is different from Quran. It's not the Quran, but it's not an apology of any kind. But the thing is, the Quran is the one which defines everything, and even science, to the extent we can understand it, is within the realm of the Quran. So we need to kind of focus on that. And the fact that Masih Maud al-Islam has made certain assessments, and coming back to that issue of particles, he said that there's no zarra, there's no finite particle which moves without the command of God, and there's an angel which is appointed to affect that movement. Now, it is beyond our comprehension how that happens, but we are not here to get that comprehension. We are here to profess our faith that what Allah said through His messengers is the right thing. That is what's going to take us somewhere. And if in the next world there is such a thing as quantum physics and all, it'll fall in place. I think that'll be all right. There's one other thing which I think is intriguing, and I just want to throw it in. On the issue of creating creation 6 days, 7 days. It's been, said that way, 7 heavens and 7 earths. But there is one verse which says that God created the earth and, the mountains and all. And then he says, then he created these 7 heavens. And he says that the sama ad-dunya is that he made the zinatanil kawakib. So this means that, all this talk about, there being a heaven, 7 layers above, above the earth being the 7 heavens. And here I defer to what was said before, that, there are understanding kind of changes with the passage of time. That 7th thing is, you can apply it to the ionosphere, the stratosphere, and all those, different divisions, and that is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But the fact is, Allah says that all these stars that you see, they are part of the sama ad-dunya. These are the words which are used in the Quran. So there's a sama ad-dunya, and then where are the other 6 sama? We don't know. And I suspect, and I'm not in a position to state that with a surety, that refers to how people come together. I think it's the hearts of human beings which determine many of those, if not all of those 6 heavens which are not there otherwise. Life is about people coming together. Life is, there are some other expressions which I don't think they're applicable. The human heart is which carries everything. That is why every human being is very important. That is why human life is sacred, and it should not be destroyed. That is what brings sanctity, and it negates the sort of things which are being done through too much of the world and among too many people. It is that sanctity which establishes a particular heaven, and that heaven then governs everything over us. So we need to focus on things, and there's stuff which I'm not in a position to lay it out as an authority, but that's the way it seems. So that's about all I can say, and I think it's wonderful. Everybody came together, large number of people. I think the ladies beat you guys to it, so next year you got to do better. And the will of Allah, inshallah, it'll keep on going. And may Allah increase our understanding of the Quran and show us His way to that which is given to us in the Quran. That is what we are here for. We're not really here to settle this disputes about quantum physics and what the Darwinians say and all that. Although it's interesting conversation, and I do not discourage it, but our purpose here is about the Quran, and science is just a corollary to it, an important one given. So I would request you please join me in prayers that Allah guide us with it. Ameen.
Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullah.